When your cat stares at you, do you actually know what it means? At first, it seems harmless, maybe even cute, those wide eyes, that quiet focus. But behind that silent gaze, something deeper might be happening. Something most cat owners completely miss. Because cats don't stare without a reason. Sometimes it's affection, sometimes it's curiosity, and sometimes it's a signal you should never ignore. In fact, one particular kind of stare can reveal something about your cat, or even about you, that most owners only realize when it's too late. So let's start with the first reason your cat watches you so closely. Because believe it or not, one, they're studying you. Most people think they're the ones observing their cats, but in reality, your cat has been studying you for years. Every movement, every habit, every sound. Cats are natural observers. In the wild, survival depends on reading the environment constantly. Even domesticated cats still carry that instinct deep in their wiring. When your cat stares at you while you're doing something simple, typing on your laptop, making coffee, scrolling on your phone, they're not zoning out. They're collecting information, they're learning patterns. What time you wake up, what sound the food bag makes, what it looks like right before you open the door. Over time, these tiny observations turn into predictions. That's why some cats show up in the kitchen seconds before feeding time, or sit by the door right before you leave. They've studied your routine so well that they can see what's coming before it happens. But there's another reason cats stare that goes beyond curiosity, and it's something most owners misunderstand completely. Two, they're asking for something. Cats don't communicate the way dogs do. They won't always bark, whine, or demand attention. Instead, they use quieter signals, and staring is one of the most powerful ones they have. Think about the last time your cat locked eyes with you across the room. Maybe they sat near their food bowl. Maybe they stood by the door. Maybe they looked at you, then slowly glanced somewhere else. That wasn't random. Cats often combine staring with subtle direction cues. They look at you, then look toward what they want: food, water, playtime, access to another room. It's their version of pointing. And once you start noticing it, you realize something surprising. Your cat might have been communicating clearly the whole time. You just didn't know how to read it. But not every stare is about needs or routines. Some of them are far more emotional. Three, they're bonding with you. Have you ever noticed your cat staring at you slowly, blinking, then relaxing? That moment might feel small, but in the cat world, it's enormous. Direct eye contact between animals can be threatening. In the wild, predators stare before they attack. That's why many animals avoid prolonged eye contact altogether. But cats do something fascinating. When they trust someone deeply, they allow eye contact, and sometimes even soften it with a slow blink. Researchers studying feline behavior have found that slow blinking is a sign of relaxation and trust. It's the cat equivalent of a smile. So when your cat looks at you calmly across the room and blinks slowly, they're not challenging you. They're saying something much simpler. I feel safe with you, but here's where things get interesting. Because sometimes the stare isn't about them at all. It's about you. Four, they're reading your emotions. Have you ever had a bad day and suddenly noticed your cat watching you more closely than usual? Maybe they sit beside you longer. Maybe they follow you from room to room. Or maybe they just stare quietly. That's not coincidence. Cats are incredibly sensitive to human behavior. Your posture changes when you're stressed. Your breathing shifts. Your voice sounds different. Even your scent changes slightly as your body releases stress hormones like cortisol. And your cat notices. Studies on domestic cats show that they can detect subtle emotional shifts in their owners through body language and tone alone. They may not understand exactly what you're feeling, but they know something has changed. So sometimes that silent stare isn't curiosity, it's awareness. Your cat is checking in. But there's another kind of stare that confuses many owners, and it has nothing to do with affection. Five, they're confused by something you did. Cats thrive on predictability. Their world is built on routines and familiar patterns. So when something unexpected happens, they notice immediately. Imagine you suddenly move furniture around the room, or you bring home a new object that wasn't there yesterday. Your cat may sit back, stare at you, and watch carefully. Not because they're judging you, but because they're trying to understand the change. In their mind, the environment has shifted, and until they figure out why, they stay alert. Maybe you start moving around quickly for no obvious reason. The same thing happens when you behave differently. Maybe you wake up earlier than usual. Maybe you wear something unfamiliar. Your cat's response? Observation. They stare, trying to piece together the puzzle. But sometimes the stare has an even deeper purpose, one that goes back thousands of years. Six, they're guarding their territory. It might be hard to imagine your quiet house cat as a territorial guardian, but deep down, that instinct is still there. Cats evolved as solitary hunters. Their survival depended on controlling a safe territory and monitoring everything inside it. Your home has become that territory, and you're part of it. When your cat sits in a high spot, on a shelf, a couch, a windowsill, and watches you move around the house. They're performing a kind of surveillance. They're tracking motion, listening for unusual sounds, making sure everything within their territory stays predictable. This is also why some cats stare intensely at new visitors. They're not necessarily afraid. They're evaluating. Who is this person? Do they belong here? Are they safe? But there's one final type of stare that matters more than all the others, and it's the one veterinarians say owners should never ignore. 7. They may be sensing that something is wrong. Earlier, we talked about cats noticing small changes in behavior, but sometimes their observations go much deeper. Cats are extremely sensitive to subtle shifts in scent, movement, and body chemistry. When someone is sick, stressed, or physically uncomfortable, their body behaves differently. Breathing patterns change, movement slows, body heat shifts, and your cat can pick up on these signals long before you consciously realize something is wrong. This is why some cats suddenly become unusually attentive when their owner isn't feeling well. They watch more closely. They stay nearby. They stare. It's not because they understand illness the way humans do, but they sense that something in their environment, something important, has changed. And sometimes the same thing happens when they are the ones experiencing a problem. If your cat begins staring at you more intensely than usual, while also showing other unusual behaviors, hiding more often, moving less, acting withdrawn, that could be their way of communicating discomfort. Cats rarely vocalize pain. Instead, they rely on subtle behavioral signals, and a persistent, focused stare can be one of them, which is why paying attention to changes in your cat's habits matters so much. Because cats communicate quietly. They don't shout. They don't explain. They observe. They signal. They wait for someone to notice. And the truth is, your cat has probably been speaking to you this way for years. Through slow blinks, through silent watchfulness, through the quiet moments when they sit across the room and simply look at you. Not because they're bored, not because they're strange, but because in their own language, that stare means something.